Today we're going to talk about why you lose so many strokes that go out of bounds off the tee. This is by far one of the most frustrating ways to blow up your scorecard. When you watch golf on TV, it always seems like they just hit a good tee shot. Even when they don't, it just seems that their ball never really ends up in a bad position anyways. So why is that? Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, those are the best players in the world. But what if I told you that you can do this too without having to make a massive swing change and take many hours of golf lessons just to improve your tee shot? It's true. You just have to understand this one thing that all good golfers are doing in order to hit more fairways during their rounds and lower their scores. And that one thing is target selection. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm James. I am a full-time golf instructor that has taught over 6,500 lessons, and I love to work with people like you who are looking to improve their golf game. That being said, let's get into step one. So if you ever looked into course management tips, the first thing most people will tell you, in order to lower your scores, they're gonna say to leave your driver in the bag. But in this video, I am not gonna tell you that. In fact, I want you to hit it as much as possible. But we're gonna have to put some rules in place before we just pull the big stick. More like guidelines. Which brings us to our first process before we can pull the big stick. And that is to gather information about the current hole that you're on. So this will be things like the length of the hole, where the wind's coming from, where's the widest part of the fairway, and of course, where is the trouble. Once you get all that information, it's time to understand how to use it to start making better decisions on the tee. But before I explain all that, I'm gonna give you a bonus tip that I need you to understand because it's also going to help. And that is, most holes are designed to where as you get closer to the green, the narrower the fairway will get. All right, so let's start with the first piece of information, which was the length of the hole itself. All right, so once you know that, I need you to ask yourself one question, and that is, can I use a club other than driver that will leave me with an approach shot that's 150 yards or less? If the answer is yes, take that club. So the second piece of information we gathered was the wind and where it was blowing from. Now, we're gonna use this, but later in the video when we talk about the second part of our process. The third thing was the widest part of the fairway. And if you can hit that with a driver, then by all means, that's a green light. You win, take it. Now, sometimes on some holes, you can actually outdrive the widest part of the fairway. You'll either have to keep the driver in the bag, take a different club, and sacrifice the distance in order to keep the ball in play, obviously leaving you with a longer second shot into the green, or hit the driver to get the distance. However, that might leave you in a situation that's not ideal for your next shot. Usually when I'm in this situation, I'll only do this option if my driver is absolutely on fire that day. Okay, so now you went through the first process, which was gathering information and kind of have an idea whether or not you need to take the head cover off the drive. But this final process is the cherry on top. It really is the key to hitting more fairways and lowering your score just by saving more strokes from the tee box itself. So now you're going to use the info that you just got and apply it to pick the correct target. Let me explain. So unless you can hit an iron or a hybrid that goes 250 plus yards, leaves you with about 150 yards in, and you might be able to, but if you can't, then driver's your option. Let's say the wind's blowing right to left and the widest part of the fairway comes up really quick. If we were to play to it, it's gonna leave us too far of a shot in, probably would have to hit driver again. So now what? What's the plan? Well, if you made it this far, I'm gonna give you another bonus tip. Anytime that you're hitting your driver, when you go to pick your target, you need to make sure one thing, that you have 30 yards to the right and to the left of your intended target. Why that is because we find that the average miss with a driver is roughly about 30 yards. So now that you know how to pick your target, we can take the info that we just got and then apply that when selecting our target. So once you start applying this on the course, you're gonna see that you're starting to hit more fairways and lose less balls and starting to gain more strokes, ultimately leading to lower scores and you having more fun. I hope that all makes sense. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. And if you got any value out of today, consider subscribing. That's it for this one. Catch you on the next one, guys. Peace.